In the real world, we often have political institutions that can tame the majority rule anything can happen result we illustrated in graph 28.8. We'll give an example of this here. We imagine that we're in Congress and we have to make a decision about how much military spending and how much domestic spending we'll undertake. But rather than allowing any proposal to make it to the floor of the House, we'll assign members to committees that deal with only a single dimension. The proposals that come out of the committees are then combined for an up or down vote in the House. We'll imagine 10 different voters, and we illustrate their ideal points here. The blue voters will be assigned to the Y committee on the horizontal axis, and the magenta voters will be assigned to the Z committee on the vertical axis. All our voters have the circular indifference curves that we first introduced in graph 28.7, and thus have single-peaked preferences in the two-dimensional issue space. But that hasn't been of much help, as we saw in graph 28.8, where we derived the anything can happen result. But now, the blue voters are assigned to the Y committee, and so they have single-peaked preferences along the Y dimension on which they vote within their committee. Their ideal points are derived on the horizontal axis from their ideal points in the two-dimensional space. The magenta voters are assigned to the Z committee on the vertical axis, and they will similarly have single-peaked preferences over the single-dimensional issue on which they'll be voting within their committee. We can again derive their ideal points on that single dimension from their two-dimensional ideal points. Since the committees are single-issue committees and its members have single-peaked preferences, we know that the median voter in each committee will determine the committee's proposal. Thus, the blue Y committee will come up with the proposal YM, and the magenta Z committee will come up with the proposal ZM. Those will then be combined into the proposal X that can be voted on in the full House. The structure of a single-issue committee system then tames the anything can happen result and provides us with a voting equilibrium that results in more centrist positions than we might otherwise get in a two-dimensional issue space that can be manipulated by agenda setters. However, the role of the agenda setter is not gone. Someone has to determine who sits on what committee, and someone has to determine the committee system to begin with. In panel B, we assign the committee members differently. The magenta committee again being assigned to the Z-axis, and the blue committee assigned to the Y-axis. The blue committee will then come forth with its proposal, the median voters' proposal of Y'(M). And the magenta Z committee will come up with its median proposal of CM'. And these proposals are then combined into the proposal X' that makes it to the House floor. But by assigning the committee members differently, X' is different than X, and so the agenda setter can manipulate which proposals are considered by the full House by how she assigns members to committees. Political institutions often develop over time and often serve the role of taming the anything can happen result we first illustrated in graph 28.8. Here we showed how a committee system can result in a structure-induced equilibrium that gives rise to more centrist proposals being considered. At the same time, we also see that it leaves room for agenda setters to manipulate the outcome. But with strong political institutions, the degree to which agenda setters can manipulate the outcome will be limited.